Hello, everybody. I messed up again with the framing on this stupid StreamYard setting. You got the black frame around it again, and I apologize. I forgot to turn that off. I can't change it now. At least I can't find anywhere to change it. But welcome to Hanging with Hobo live, full of mistakes. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you've had a great week. Some of us have had an eventful week. We've had I got an email just before going. Well, I don't know when he actually sent it, but Steve, I got your email before going live. Steve had a desire to play Evil Knievel this week and had a little accident. Broke a few bones, but he's doing okay, I think. Maybe with the assistance of a little bit of pain medicine. But I've already seen him in the chat, so thank you for being here and toughing it out. Hopefully we'll get your mind off of all of that and you'll be on the mend very, very soon. So everybody, if you say a little prayer for Steve before you go to bed tonight, ask for healing and for God's hands to touch those who are treating him and do it right. Because I don't trust doctors. Also, glad to see Craig's here. Craig's also, I think he was, I forget what I called him, maybe Bionic Man, or he's super impressive. He's broken some titanium in his back, and now he's got to go back under the knife. You guys have got to cool your jets a little bit. So, what I'm going to talk about tonight is a project I've been working on all week. I was asked to make a plaque, a name plaque for an urn. And this one is a rectangular box urn, so it'll be nice and flat plaque instead of some of the curved urns where you could do that with the rotary and actually engrave the urn itself. But I don't really want to do much of those. So this one, though, a plaque, no problem. But the urn is made out of a darker wood. It's not walnut. It's no telling what it is. It's probably a cheap wood that's been stained and finished. But I was like, okay, well, a piece of walnut would go on there and look good. Let's see. Go away. I'm getting pop-ups on my screen here. I said a piece of walnut, a plaque walnut would look good. I said, but the only problem with engraving walnut is you don't see a dark engraving on dark wood very well. In fact, let me pull this up here. No, here it is. And switch. So there was the original, just engraving with, that's got a little light coat of clear on it. And you don't see that very well. It doesn't show up very good or very well on walnut. But I didn't want to put a really light contrasting wood. I didn't want to put maple on top of that because the box itself is all solid one color. So I didn't want to have the nameplate as one, piece that just jumped off of there. So I played with, well, you can see it right there. I've played with painting the engravings, and I got some okay results from that. It was a little more work. And I have attempted to work with some different waxes or rubbing finishes once before. I tried this, there you go, Rub and Buff. It's a small, I think 2-ounce tube. It's only a half ounce. It's only about a half ounce, and it's paste. And this little half-ounce tube is, I think, like $7 or $8 at Hobby Lobby. And I didn't like how well this worked. So I found this one at Hobby Lobby. And I misspelled because Guild is like Screen Actors Guild is Guild, but this is gilding wax, Gilding, gilding wax, and this is Bella Rose. It's not focused. There you go. Bella Rose metallic wax. And this is, now get me back in focus. This is about 0.7 ounces. It's a little bit more, but at Hobby Lobby, this is only $1.99. So it's, a fraction of the cost of this stuff, and it worked really, really well. And once there's some tricks to using this to get your best results, and I'm going to show you all of that tonight. I'm even going to try, and you know what happens when you try to do stuff live? It bites you in the butt. But I'm going to try and demonstrate for you a couple of the techniques on what you should do versus what you shouldn't do. But we'll see how that goes. I've got a piece on the machine ready to start the engraving. But here's what it looked like. And this isn't even finished yet. Let's try swap and go over here. There we go. So that made a huge difference in how that presents itself. And I have got a ton of lacquer on here to get this to that finish, because you do want to seal this stuff. It does dry and harden, but as you'll see in a few minutes, if you didn't protect it, you could have problems with aging and wearing. Yeah, you missed the opening, John. I said that right from the beginning. I messed that up in the setup, and there's nothing I can do about it now. I can't do it. Can't change it now. That's something that they just started whenever I was down and not able to broadcast. So I haven't gotten the habit of turning that off. It's an option. You have to tell it, hey, don't do that. I used beeswax as a fill, then seal it. I should check with who has it to see how it's holding up. Yeah, and plus, how much color, how much variation did you get with the beeswax? And that's another thing. If you go to, in fact, I think I've got it pulled up here. Yeah, it's not showing. When I went into Hobby Lobby in my local, this Bella Rose gilding wax, they had dozens of colors, not just gold, but all kinds of colors that you could get. And so I thought, well, that's pretty cool. And, some of us have experimented with that powder coating. Yeah, it's a joke. It's a waste of time and extremely messy. And it doesn't give a great result. It can give you an okay result, but it's very messy, and it takes skill to get it on there and get it melted and not blow it everywhere. And this is a much better result. And there's a ton of color options. Oh, in fact, Led Zepp just said, that's Led, this is a much better alternative than powder coating. And if you've done it enough, you can get an okay result with it, but the result you get with it is nowhere near as crisp and clean and as nice of a result as you get with this stuff. In fact, here is the actual piece. And you guys have heard me tell you that I put a finish on my pieces that's a piano finish. Well, I'm still not done with this. And you see the shine, see the gloss. That is a slick finish. And I've got to do a one more sanding and maybe a couple more coats. I done lost count of how many coats of lacquer I've put on this. It's at least a dozen or more coats, but that's going to look really, really nice on top of the urn. All right. Let's see here. I can't remember whether I mixed in the mica. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to start an engraving on a piece of, I think it's Purple Heart. And the gold on the purple heart is going to look really, really nice too. But I've got this purple heart. One side of it is prepared and one side of it's not. And I'm going to engrave both sides and then use this, show you how to apply it, show you how you clean it up, how easy it is to use, and why you want to do certain things and not others. So let me get this started, and then I'm going to tell you about the progress with the website. Oh, gotta find it. Lightburn is not responding. And I'm only going to do a single letter H, so it shouldn't take too long to engrave. But now, I think it was Robert. He sent me an email I seen tonight that asked about how deep did I engrave this to receive the wax. And you might want to take it a little deeper, and Lightburn's still not responding, a little deeper than you would normally do an engraving, but that's just to make it easier in the application and to give a little more depth in the wax. Now it's not the lid. It's not even, Lightburn simply not responding. It's not even, I may have shut Lightburn down and start over again. I rebooted the computer before going live, and let's do that. We're just going to, in fact, no, I can't even do anything. I'm locked out. I can't even, yeah, Lightburn's not responding. What do you want to do? Close program. All right, closed. Start again. There we go. And now, and there it goes. It wasn't the lid. It was just Lightburn and Windows hung up. All right. Now, let's try this one more time. That was 2 5/16 inches. 2 plus 5/16, and toolpath, bottom corner, letter H. And another thing, when you're doing this stuff, your font makes a ton of difference. If you try to get too fancy with some of the brush script, where you got some really fine lines, you definitely would want to go really deep on your engraving so that that really fine line has got a deep crevice to get down in there, and otherwise you'll wipe it out if it's not deep enough. I'm going to use Century. Century School Book, and do it in bold. There we go. And there we go. And I had this set up, but then Lightburn froze on me, and I'm set it up again. So I apologize. I thought I was being smart and getting ahead of the game, but no, it didn't work. Because like I said, it's live. All right, number of passes, we're going to do 2 passes and say okay. And okay, it's good. And start. Hopefully this doesn't smoke me out of here. Now start. There we go. All right. I've had a problem with light burn on this computer after the last Windows update. Yeah, that's what stinks. I tried to log in your website. Yeah, don't. I'm going to talk to you about the website while this is doing. So don't try and log in, because if you do manage to get logged in or create an account, I'm probably going to end up deleting it anyway. So don't waste your time setting anything up right now. And I want to discuss that in a minute. Engraving glass and watching gilding wax. It's good. It's going to be a good evening. Engraving. Oh, so you're engraving glass. I hear you. Oh, wrong one. What about doing an inlay for depth? I've done videos on inlays. In fact, I don't know where it's at right now. Is it? No. Ow. I don't know where my finished piece is at, but I've got some of these for sale on my website. It's the desk nameplates. Made these out. That's out of solid walnut. And then I've got solid maple that you can do a really deep engraving there and cut out your pocket to fill that. So yeah, I have done really deep inlays or really deep engravings and creating the inlays, done on nameplates and a few other things. All right. So while this is working, the website is almost complete, but I did what I did with the website because I was getting slammed with tons of bots creating fake accounts daily. And I ain't talking about one or two, dozens a day. And what they're doing there, from what I understand, is they're most likely bots. And someone's not sitting there just creating these accounts. It's a bot. It's a program doing it, testing my website, testing the security of my website. I don't think that they could get into I don't know what they could get into. The payment processing part is not directly linked. I have it going through a couple different hands, all under security reasons. And I do not store any of your payment information ever. None of your cards, because there is I forget the term they use when you're doing the WooCommerce or the online commerce, the e-commerce. I could store your payment information, put it in a vault, so that every time you came back in to buy something, your payment information would be stored, and you could just click on a button. And I don't do that. I've never done that. Anytime you enter your payment, you have to put it in completely unless you have it saved on your side. But I never save that. But some folks do. And that would be a reason for the bots to hack the site. They may not get anything from me, but they could get all of my database from all of my customers and all of their payment information. And that could be extremely valuable. But I never have, and I never will store any of your information in regards to financial stuff. But regardless of you being in any jeopardy, it was creating a nightmare for me with all of these bogus accounts. So I wanted to address that with the website, and it required doing some updating to the site. And I said, you know what? Let's just redo the whole thing. And so we started from scratch with a whole new website. I've got 2 new security features in place. I started with one, hoping that just the email validation was going to work. And the way that it was working was, if you signed up, you went in and signed up for an account, you put in your information, Mickey Mouse at 123 Never Neverland in Where are they at down there in Florida? It's not Ocala, but Orlando, Florida. And then you hit save. Well, before that's all you had to do, and now you got an account. Well, I put in place an email validation that before your account could be actually activated, you had to reply to the email that you used to set your account up. And that's how I knew all these accounts were bogus, because they were fake emails. They didn't even, sometimes they didn't even make good sense. There was nothing about them that looked like a legit email. Well, that email validation wasn't enough to deter them. I've had the site live for about a day, and I've already got hit with about 12 of those fake accounts already, because they were still able to send that information, but because they never validated their email, it never created them an official account, but it was still filling up my information with all this bogus information. So I've implemented a second step in the processing or application for an account. And it's where you put in all your information. And this is going to trip up some of you. And for the fellas out there, maybe your wife can help, or you can go get the neighbor or your grandkid or your granddaughter. It's got math. A simple math question. It'll be, what's 3 plus 4? And that's the end of it. But it's just an equation there that requires you to interact with it and answer it correctly. And typically the bots don't do that. So you'll have a math question to answer. Then once you finish that, then you'll get an email from Hobo with Wood saying, hey, thanks for joining the Hobo Nation. Click here to activate your account. And when you do, you click there, and then boom, you're on the website and you're ready to go. But yeah, math is going to be involved. Let's see here. I'm going to tell the surgeon to save my titanium so I can engrave it. You can do it with your fiber, but you're not going to do that with your diode. But yeah, you could do that with your fiber, I'm sure. I don't know what the settings would be, and you could probably get some pretty cool colors. And let's see here. Yeah, disposable emails are way too, and I've got several of them. But these are not disposable emails. These are legitimate. I mean, these are bots, and that it's crazy emails that they're fabricating. Oh no, Clack will never be able to get an account. This is elementary math. Clack can handle that. He can do it. I got faith in everybody that can do it. But I'm doing these things to protect you, the account users and the website users, and get rid of the headaches from me getting all these bogus accounts. Your information has never been stored, and it was never, ever at risk because I never had it. I just got tired of all those junk emails. So I've implemented that second math equation into the application process today. And I'm going to give it about 24 to 48 hours and see if I start seeing any more of those bogus requests. And then if I don't, then this will be one of the last things I ever send out on Patreon. Is I will send out a video and a message on Patreon to the current patrons about how to get everything set up so I can get them set up and grandfathered in with their current billing and not the new billing. So current patrons, just be on the watch out in the next 96 hours or so for an email on Patreon coming to you. And I may do, in addition to just posting on Patreon, I will look at sending out an email to all of the patrons. So you'll get an email from me plus the posting on Patreon. So everybody will know, okay, this is what we're going to do. And there were so many fake accounts, it was impossible for me to weed all of those out. So the reason that so many of you have not been able to get into your account is your accounts no longer exist. My only option, my only realistic option was to delete everything and start over. So when you do create your account, you're going to, and again, this is going to be, I'm not going to go live with it until I know I've got it as secure as I possibly can. I don't need, and I don't need, I will never sell any information you share with me, ever. I don't collect data and sell data. But there have been times that individuals have purchased product and I needed to contact them. And if you use a bogus email or you don't put your accurate phone number in there or both, then I have no way of contacting you. There have been multiple times that I've been able to reach out to viewers, consumers, customers, because they had their correct information in there. So I strongly encourage you to at least put the right phone number in there. If you don't want to put your correct address, unless I'm shipping you something, it doesn't matter. You can put 123 Never Never Land and nobody will be the wiser. Only when I'm shipping you something is your address crucial. But a correct email address that you use and you acknowledge daily, or at least every other day, along with a correct phone number would be a really wise decision to do. And it looks like we're about through the first pass here. I'm going to do 2 passes on this, then flip it over and do the other side. So let's see here. All right. Well, Terry, don't worry about it. Terry says that I won't be able to see it because Patreon locked them out. It's okay. I have your information in the database. I've got your information. And that's why I say I'm going to send out an email in addition to the Patreon post, because you are not the only one who wouldn't be able to see it. So you'll get an email from me, and then we will make sure that you're set up with the grandfathered pricing and all that. So you're not going to have to worry about anything. I'm going to get everybody squared away. You know why? Because I need it. All right. I know I was wrong. That was the second pass. All right. So let me flip it over and start the other side. Oh. And I'm going to turn the fans on, the exhaust fans. All right, now that's done. Let's turn Terry off here and start, or let's frame it and start. Looks good. And start. Okay. If it helps, I'm sure some of us are willing to test your website for you. I'm not worried about, because I've already tested it, and there are a few cosmetic improvements I've got to make still, but I've tested it and my web designers tested it. The only thing I'm looking for now is to make sure that the bots aren't able to apply for an account, and your applying doesn't really help me any. So unless you've got a bot farm, you got a farm that you do a lot of mining with. Oops, wrong button. Disposable email is not one that you set up and keep. It only lasts for like 30 minutes or some that are good. Okay, I don't have any true disposables. I've got emails that I use for when people require an email, like to get your loyalty card at the grocery store. I used to have one that just said junk at stevefortner.com. But whenever you give them to the cashier or whoever, they're like, or they don't believe you. So I quit using the junk at stevefortner.com. So now I've got emails like sugardaddygastonia at gmail.com, or I've got the old business account, but I've got, and I keep them and I use those to sign up for stuff that I will never ever check. That those in baskets will get filled up and I'll just open them and delete, open them and delete, because anything coming to there, it's garbage. Anything. I'm sure it'll be worth it, but sell/promote your website to me/us. What goodies are held within? Well, I've got lots and lots and lots of digital files. I've got over $600 worth of retail value digital files, but I also have a lot of engraving blanks and physical pieces, stuff that you may not find at your, stuff you will not find at your local hardware. For example, these, like I said, this, solid walnut, and it's a desk nameplate already cut to a 45, got a nice bevel here, and on the bottom too. And then the maple, and that's solid maple, about a 1/4 inch. So do really good desk nameplates with those. And I got a few of those on the site. Bunch of different plaques and different hardwoods, Purple Hearts, I think, and some Osage orange, Argentine orange, a bunch of different things. All right. So what I want to talk to you about with this piece that I'm doing to test this, one side of it, the first side I did, I sealed it before engraving it. I put a couple of coats of lacquer on it first. The flip side is natural Purple Heart with no sealing or nothing, no protection at all. And the way that I'm going to apply this, Robert, I don't know if Bob, I don't know if you go by Bob or not. Mr. Olson sent me a little care package, and in that he sent me some glue spreaders or applicators, and these I think are something he 3D printed. This has been a perfect applicator for working with this wax, and because I don't want to get it, you can use your fingers. I would recommend putting on a rubber glove and use your finger to smear it in there real well. But I've got rubber gloves over there, but I don't want to go through that hassle. So I use this little applicator to put it on, and it's got a nice flat edge to help really push it down and smear it in there. The reason that you want to do the sealant first, do the lacquer, and then do your engraving, is you want to seal all of the grain on your wood. Doesn't matter if it's Purple Heart, walnut, whatever you're using it on. Because this is available in multiple colors. You could even do it on maple and stuff like that. You can get it in a blue or whatever. But you want to seal that wood first. And you want a really good coverage and get all of the crevices filled that are not supposed to receive the wax. And I've got one side sealed and one side not, so you can see what happens when you don't seal it. This will get down into every crack and crevice, and if it's not sealed, it ain't gonna get it out, and then it's gonna create an entirely different look. Might not be a bad look, but it wouldn't be something like this. And for the late bloomers, that this is what we're talking about using here. This is a gold gilding wax that I did a deep engraving and then used the gilding wax. And then once I had the wax on it, went back and applied 4,000 coats of lacquer to get that shine and protection on it. and it's finishing either the first run or it's about to be done, period. So that was finishing the first run. But I learned this the hard way. The first time I tried doing this and I didn't do the pre-sealing, will it work on glass and acrylic? Yeah, it will, Terry. It sure will. I don't know how you would protect it after the fact, because how do you, because this, it will dry and it will harden. But I'm afraid that if it's not protected, it will eventually wear off. Because, and you'll see whenever I get this on there, it's going to, how easy it is to clean up and work with. And you would, and it would also demonstrate that over a period of time, it would eventually just be completely worn off. What kind of lacquer do I use? Three Dogs is asking. I use very, very simple Rust-Oleum spray high gloss clear acrylic or clear lacquer. And to give you an idea of how many coats this is, I've just this one piece, and this is about the size of a postcard. This is one can of Rust-Oleum. One entire can has been applied to this. I probably applied 6 to 8 coats and then block sanded it smooth, and then another, 6 coats to get it to look like that. So lots of time. $10 in lacquer. No, I'm that. $8.50 in lacquer, but lots of time in between applying and drying, applying and drying, applying and drying. So it takes a little while. I try to make sure my cracks and crevices are sealed as a general rule for life. And Andy says, yep, words to live by. Job security? I'm not sure what you mean by that one. Another layer of thin glass or acrylic will seal it. Yeah, if you're doing acrylic, and I guess you could do glass on top of glass, but I'm thinking if you were engraving a glass or a champagne flute or something like that, there's no way that I can think that you could protect it. Realistically, there might be something sealer you could put on there. I don't know. I've not done a lot with glass that way. But if, like I said, when you don't seal it, this is throw it the floor. It's only a $800 cell phone, just bouncing around like a ping pong ball. All right. This is the magic cloth that you use. You want to use a lint-free cloth when you're removing your excess. Super glue. Now, yeah, that would work on. Yeah. Super glue would work on. I don't know how you would do it on wood and make it look good. I know that people use the super glue on, like when you turn pins, use a CA glue and cover the whole thing, and then you polish it once on the lathe, and it turns out really, really nice. But that's giving a nice even coat on the entire pin when you do that. I don't know how you would get a really nice even coat of CA glue, and that would be expensive to do a piece of material like that. Because if you only did around the letters, then that's going to have a discoloration look to it, even if you put lacquer over top of it after you're done. But on glass, I don't know if that would work. I don't know. But you need 2 things whenever you go to remove your excess wax. You want to try and use your applicator to remove as much of the excess as possible. So you've got less to work with when you go to remove it, but you want to use a lint-free cloth and then a very expensive chemical solution on this cloth to get it off of the surface while leaving that down in the valley of your engravings. So that's the one thing I was hesitant to tell you about, is the very, very expensive chemical solution that you need to remove the excess. And that is a combination of hydrogen and oxygen. Yeah, H2O, water. So a little bit of water and a lint-free cloth, and you wipe off the excess. You want to apply it and actually let it sit. I think it says, and we're not going to be able to let it sit for as long as we should, but I think it says let it sit for about 30 minutes, and that will begin to harden. And then you use a damp, wet cloth with water, and you can wipe off the surface. And if you can use, if you were take a nice flat edge and wrap the flat edge with your material. So now you've got a nice flat edge, and use that to help clean it. That's going to help prevent you from pushing the cloth down into the crevices of the engraving and removing that material or that wax. But you could use the homemade sealer one, linseed oil, polyurethane, and mineral spirits. Okay, that's done. So now we can start some applications. Chris says, I had a laugh yesterday. My wife bought some expensive microfiber cloths she thought they would wash better to reuse, same brand and material as the cheap ones. Yeah, I get these, the big box of them. They're disposable rags, and they work really, really good. All right, so let's get this off the laser, shut this off, shut the fans off so we're not competing with all the noise. Lord mercy. Man, oh. All right, so this side has the lacquer finish on it, and you can see the discoloration around the engravings from the lacquer having been heated up during the engraving process. So you can see that discoloration there. That doesn't matter. That'll clean up. That'll be from the soot and from the engraving. And I'm just using a little bit of spit and a microfiber cloth. Wipe that up. And that already looks a lot better. And then the other side is no protection at all. And I'm going to apply to both sides, and I'm going to do it on camera so you can see what I'm doing. But my dad's got the heat turned up in here, and I feel like I'm in a sauna. Let me go look at this thermostat, because I'm about to die. Good Lord. No wonder. He had it set on 80 degrees, and I'm dressed for a cool air. All right. So let's see here. All right. I'm going to grab my gilding wax, and a little bit of this goes a long way. In fact, I did that entire 4x6 sheet, and when I open this up, that hole, that vacancy down in there, that was already there. That was from the filling process. I've just been working around the top lip to get material out of it. And I'm going to use my applicator, and I'm just going to get a little dab. Don't have a whole lot. And I'm just going to start. And this one is a pretty bold letter compared to the one I did on that nameplate. But I'm just filling that area. And you can see there's a lot of around the sides I don't need. Well, that's where this applicator comes in nice and handy. I can scrape that off, the excess off, and then push it back down into the engraving. And this is a big, bold letter compared to the ones I did on the nameplate. So I'm being deliberately sloppy with this. And because I've got that lacquer finish on there, I can drag across there, and I just got it on my thumb. Joy, joy. And it pulls a lot of that right off the surface. When I go to do the other side, you're going to see I'm not going to get as good a result. Finally, the heat turned off. But you're going to want to work this from about every angle with the wood grain, working in all four directions. Make sure you got a good even coat and everything's covered. It's okay if you put too much in there and you take it back off with your scraping. It's better to have a good even coat than not have enough. All right, so I've got that one filled. Now I'm going to use my scraper to try and take as much of the excess off of here as possible. And that would need to dry for at least 30 minutes, according to the instructions, I think, on the box, before you start removing this with a wet cloth. Now, the flip side. I didn't think about this. I did such a deep engraving on this, and it's pretty much mirrored, that some of it actually pushed through the wood. You wouldn't be doing this normally a double sided on your piece typically. So now, so get this applied to this side. And you can see already that because this side doesn't have the lacquer on it, it does not want to let me take off as much of the non-engraved surface. It's seeping into that wood pretty good. And just a little bit more on the other side. Now, if you're going to do this, you want to have, I would prep the material, do the engraving, and cut it out. Get everything done so you've got a finished piece, minus just getting the gilding wax and final finish on there, because you don't want to take a chance on, if you don't have a rolly, if you don't have the precision that I've got with my machine, you don't want to be going back and forth with your piece and not have everything line up. So I would engrave and cut everything out, and then go apply this finish to it, and then do your final finish after the fact. All right, so I've got that filled and done pretty good. And you can see there's a whole lot more Wow. I just pushed a whole lot through the other side. Like I said, doing stuff live, you don't prepare, didn't think of. We'll take that excess off and put it back in the jar and then just clean it up and check it again on the other side. When it dries, will it shrink? I didn't notice a whole lot of shrinkage, Craig, uh, but I imagine it does have a little, but I didn't notice a whole lot. But mind you, I'm working here with the biggest thing I had was, a half inch. Most of it was small letters, so it wasn't something I'd really see too much of. All right, so now in the ideal world, this would sit for about 30 minutes before attempting to clean it up. I'm going to let it sit for a few minutes, and I need to set it on its edge so it's not. There we go. Clean up my scraper. All right. Oh my. I would fill it until it's level. The dimple don't bother me none when clear coating because it's because of the way that I do my finish. If you're not going to go for the piano-like finish that I do, and even still here, if I hold this just right, you can see the dimple that he's referring to. If you look, well, there you go. Well, kind of, you can see it in the hands. There you go. See the dimple in this hand? That's a result of that lacquer, getting down in there. And you can see a little bit of dimple around the letters. But if I get the finish as nice as I like, I don't mind a little bit of that. And I think it's going to be next to impossible to, well, not impossible. It'll just require multiple applications. Because I think you want to go fairly deep, because in areas where you've got really thin lines, and well, let's see if I can show you here. Where some of the worst ones. Some of these, well, okay, like on the hands, I'm going to zoom in. I want you to look at this hand right here, and at about 5 o'clock on the cuff of the hand, see how that's kind of gotten wiped away there at the bottom. I don't know where my here, right there. That got, there's some in there, but it wasn't very deep, and it got wiped out during the cleaning process. Had I gone deeper with the engraving and able to get more wax in there, I believe I could have avoided that. I would be more concerned about making sure that the depth of the engraving was deep enough to get enough of the material in there so that when you go to clean the surface, you don't accidentally remove too much of it, which happened there. But that's nominal, and it looks okay. All right, now let's see here. I had a squirt bottle of water. There it is. So this is just plain old water and a really, really expensive microfiber cloth. Not. And I'm going to use a straight edge. And wet that edge. And then, like I said, this should dry considerably longer than I've let this sit here. But I just want to show you the process and show you the difference between the lacquered finish side and the non-finished side. This is the lacquer finish side. And using a flat edge wet rag, I'm trying not to touch the backside and get it all over my fingers. But you're starting to see that cleaning up pretty good. I need to find a clean spot on my rag because I'm just reapplying it. And again, this is a very, very specialized solution that comes right out of my spigot. And I'm not doing anything besides just keeping that flat edge on that top surface and rubbing her clean. And there's your first application. Got a little bit on that corner. There we go. And I would probably let that dry at least a half hour and then maybe do a second application and then clean it up real good and then do a lacquer finish on it. But now you see that's cleaned up pretty good. There's not a lot of residual gold in the cracks and crevices of the wood. Now let's see how this turns out that we didn't prep. So I'm going to start with the clean side of the wet rag and see how big of a mess we get. Again, trying to keep my fingers out of everything. And where the residual wax in the cracks and crevices will really begin to show up is when you go to apply your finish after the fact. And I need to get a new clean spot, but here is the finish side, and here I want to zoom in so you can see this real good. See how it's getting down in those little cracks and crevices and those little bitty spots. You're not going to have a real good luck getting it out of there because it's not sealed or protected. Andy's asking, would a bit of heat maybe from a hairdryer help smooth out the flow for? It might, but the flow it doesn't look terrible. I don't know that it's necessary. It doesn't mention that in the application instructions. Would it hurt? I don't know. Is it necessary? Not really. Would it expedite the drying process? Maybe. But could it create a surface where it dries on the surface and then doesn't cure very well from the inside out? I probably wouldn't do it. I'd probably just let it cure of it on its own time because it's not in the instructions anywhere. All right, get a new spot, a new wet. And try to clean this up a little bit more. But it's not going to clean up as well. And like I said, once you put the lacquer finish on it, you're going to see and I don't know that it would be a bad thing. It would be a different finish, but you'd want to do it over the entire surface and not just around your engraving. You would want to make that uniform. So if you don't pre-finish it, then I would do the entire surface, because I'm going to zoom in here and you can see that side where you've got about a 1/4 inch pass that's really deep on the gold. I'm going to show you both sides. So there's the unprotected, unsealed. I didn't do anything to the prep it in advance. There we go. And you see all the cracks and all the wood grains showing up with the gold versus when you prep it, it does seal a whole lot better. Now, I did one or two really quick light coats on this to begin with. I would probably, if I was going to do a really fine and finished piece, I would have gotten it when you apply lacquer or a spray finish. If you've done it, you know when you can tell that when you can no longer see the wood grain in your finish, now you've got it sealed properly. Everything is nice and flat. And that's another reason that you want to do the engraving pretty deep, because you're going to have a pretty thick layer on top too if you seal it correctly. You didn't need to clean the engraving first, and you didn't need to clean the engraving first. No, I just wiped it down if you're asking if I needed to. And is the gilding wax located where paint? Yes, it's in the paints and finishes in the Hobby Lobby section. And no, I didn't. Yeah, I think I used my microfiber cloth just to wipe things down, because the finish side did have a lot of the soot and stuff around it. You're not going to hurt anything if you weren't doing the wax and you go wiping at it. You could lose some of your coloration from your engraving, but here, since you're putting the wax in it, it doesn't matter. And when I hold this up to the light, I can see two pinholes where I engraved through that material. But this gives a really good variation to your engraving. And I did this, obviously I did this for one of my local funeral homes that I do all of the my flag nameplates for the vets. And she asked me, she said, "Can you do something? This is not for a vet." She asked me if I could do something for this urn. And I said, "Yeah, I can do something." And she has used previously just brass engraved nameplates, and then they, age it and get the black letters or whatever to get on the black letters on the brass plate. But she wanted to do something wood. And this was the first attempt I've used and done this technique, but I really, really like it. I like how it turned out. I like the result. And I showed it to her, and she was beside herself with how good that looked compared to a brass nameplate that obviously looks like it come out of a machine. And she's like, "You're going to have to bill me for this one." I said, "I haven't billed you for the first one, and I ain't planning to bill you for this one." And she said, "Yeah, but that's impressive, and that's expensive." She said, that would probably be $120 if I had it done from somebody else. And I thought about it. So, well, not really. And then I got to thinking about it. Yeah, from a time standpoint, I made this out of a piece of scrap that I had laying on my shelf over here for over a year. So I didn't have a lot of material tied up in it, but it's an entire can of lacquer, a $2. I had to purchase a $2 thing of wax. I didn't use hardly any of it, but I bought it for this project. Will I ever use it again? Maybe, maybe not. So if I was looking at doing this to charge somebody, I'd figure that in as a total cost is $2 in material, plus whatever material you're going to make it out of. I wouldn't do something like that with the Baltic birch plywood, but with the right time and prep, you could even make that look pretty decent. But I would recommend doing it out of, some hardwoods. But I said, yeah, you know what? I said, with close to 12 or more applications of the lacquer, with 30 minutes between application and drying time and reapplying, then that's 6 hours of spraying and finishing this. So, $100, $120, probably pretty cheap. This opens a whole new world to my acrylic signs. Thank you. Well, you're most welcome. I don't know on the acrylic. I said, I don't know how would you seal it and protect it, Terry? How would you after the fact? What would you do? And Chris says, "Tell her to deduct it off your funeral cost." But Terry, I'm curious how would you seal that and protect it on the acrylic? I'm curious. Uh, but I like that so much better than this right here. I'm gonna grab this. Uh, this was done with gold spray paint. What lacquer did I use? You tried doing lacquer on the acrylic? Okay. Um, the lacquer I used is Rust-Oleum rattle can. So $8.50 can of Rust-Oleum lacquer, high gloss lacquer. But this I did with, it's got a lacquer finish on it. This one I did not do my piano finish. It's not as deep and as lustrous, but the gold is from gold spray paint. I engraved it fairly deep, then spray painted it, and then just sanded it back to the walnut. But what I don't like about this is because that paint goes right on the surface and it's not very, very thick. If you look, you can see all the dimples in the wood grain and all the pimples and all the irregularities from the way that the wood engraved. Well, with the wax, you don't get that. The wax is going to go down in there and fill that whole area up, and then you're taking off the excess, so it gives a nice, smoother finish to it. Now, to do a big piece like this, it would probably take multiple applications to get it to look good and smooth. But I like the outcome of the wax much, much, much better. Some UV epoxy would be nice over it. You could use the Rust-Oleum on flat acrylic. Okay. Late again, Ed. Well, you'll have to back up and watch. We did. I did a complete demo on how I created this marker to get that gold gilding wax in there to create the contrast in that dark walnut. Tips on using it. This is the piece that I did. There's an H, and in the flip side, with one being prepared and sealed and one not. And you can see a whole lot of gold specks all the way around the perimeter of this one that you won't see when you prep it. But after thinking about that, even with this side that's prepped, making sure, in fact, I would do this on all of my future projects using this wax. You've seen whenever I was applying this that I was really just applying over the engraving. And then when I used my flat edge to remove the excess, I was rubbing the entire area. I would make sure that every single square millimeter of the surface that was engraved was rubbed with excess if there are any small little voids or pockets, it would get there and over the entire surface. Because if you didn't do that and make sure you applied it to the entire surface, you could have a situation where it's nice and deep around your engraving and a little bit around the pocket or around the letter. And then out here on the outer perimeter, there is no gold specks. Then that would look obvious and uneven. But if you make sure on a large piece that you're rubbing the entire surface with the cleaning cloth and rubbing that in everywhere, if there is any little specks that show up, it wouldn't be just around your engraving. that whole surface could get it, and that would look okay. All right. Looks like Michael's has it for the ones in Canada. Yeah, they don't have Hobby Lobby in Canada. I don't like Michael's. If I had a choice, I'm going to Hobby Lobby. If I don't have a choice, then I would try Amazon. I wouldn't go to Michael's. I'm against Michael's. All right, so the new website is in its testing phase. I'm going to give it another 24 to 48 hours of testing to make sure that the bots are not attacking the site any longer. Once I feel good that I've got them licked for now, I will contact my patrons via a post on Patreon and a direct email to all current and previous patrons to let them know that the site is now officially live and how they need to get things set up so I can get them back into the groove with their previous billing points. Ed says, my wife wants me to make her a plaque to give to a friend and lost track of time. I understand, brother. Especially when you're into it, when you're you're in the groove and you got things going the way you want them to go, and you can look down and an hour's gone before you even know it. Yeah, and I haven't done any new down. I have not even put the maze online yet because nobody can download anything. I haven't uploaded that yet. Clear fingernail polish on my acrylic might work too. It would work on sealing that wax maybe. I'm just wondering though how it's going to look on this where the transition. I wouldn't want to see the clear white or the clear polish and then see the transition from clear polish to regular acrylic. How would you get the entire surface looking uniform? All right, so yeah, nothing new, and no new or no downloads available for at least another 24 to 48 hours. Look for patrons, existing and previous. Look for an email or a post letting you know when to do it, and we'll get that going. Oh, and you know what? Let me share with you something. Let me share something with you. And you got some questions here. In fact, I'm going to post Andy's question right here so I can mark that spot. But she's giving me a notification that she needs to go outside. So give me 1 minute. I'm going to open the door for her. I'll be right back. And I'm going to come back, answer your questions. And then I want to tell you some exciting news for Hobo. Okay, questions. Can I email you for the 4-heart cross file? I'd like to make a couple next week. 4-heart cross. Let me grab this. Is this a file you're talking about? That one? Who asked for that? Andy. Is that the file you're looking for? Updated to 2.0.05 and now engraves on the y-axis instead of the x-axis. How do I switch back? Okay. That's going to be in your settings. I would be curious if what your settings are, did something get changed and inverted? We'll look at that and see. Let's see here. Okay, I just want to look for Andy before I forgot. So Andy says, yes, that's the one. All right, email me, Andy. Wrong button. Email me and say, yes, that I want the 4-heart cross. Yeah, I'll send that to you. And back to Roger. All right. So Roger, in your settings, let's turn Roger off here. Editor settings. Let's see. Is it going to be in here or is it going to be in the wrench and screwdriver? Basic settings. And Chris, looking to see if Chris has already replied to this. Chris says, yeah, check your work origin and make sure it's not changed. So yeah, you want to check your origin. And is there a setting, Chris, in settings that you tell it, right? Yeah, right here, swap X and Y output to laser. Is that a possibility? I remember seeing that. I've never turned that on. Mine is turned off right now. But if that was checked, then that would cause it to engrave in the other direction, wouldn't it? And if his origin is fine and your origin's right here, I'm using absolute coordinates. So my origin is not a choice. Let's say cancel. But if you're using current position or user origin, you could change your job origin, and that could cause a possibility, a problem. But I use absolute coordinates. That takes that out of the equation. And Chris says, yes, that's what I use for my large laser. And Michael does make a good point. Says what load your earlier preferences would resolve the issue. In fact, it should resolve your issue. If you go into file and preferences and load preferences back up and load from load your preferences to prior you did your update, that should fix your issue as well. Should. But yeah, I would look in the wrench and screwdriver under basic settings and see if this has gotten turned on. Swap X and Y output and turn that on or off, whatever is done now, and see if that doesn't help it. And then check your job origin. But as who was it said that? Yeah, Michael said it, and Chris agrees. Yes, that would be the next step. Is load your preferences. All right, let me go back up. Oh, it's off. Okay, okay. So you might go back and just load your preferences from prior to doing your update. And let's see here. Let me get down to nope. I've got to go back up. I want to get all these questions. And Craig's probably already gone. Good night, Craig. Hope you get some rest. Questions. Oh, now this is what I want to talk about. David asked, is the trailer all done? No, but there's some exciting news on that front. Just a reminder to stay. Just a reminder to stay with our engravings. Just had a wine glass break, and the sock that I have rice for weight is now. Okay. Yeah, stay with your engravings. Yes. Don't ever leave your laser running unattended. And Gilroy said that he had to switch from absolute coordinates and then back when he did the 2.0. He had to switch and then switch back. Rick says I updated and now mine frames backwards. Yeah, and that could be a similar situation with the origins mixed up, or and some of you that may not know this, if you've only worked with a diode laser, that's all you've ever worked with. If you ever get a file that was designed from someone using a CO2 laser, more times than not, everything's going to be inverted. The origin's going to be inverted. The design, even the fonts and stuff could be backwards because they have different settings. So your update could have inadvertently brought in some information or settings for CO2s versus your diode. And that'd be a good reason to go back to load your preferences prior to doing your update. And it should resolve most of that. Should. Let's see here. Yeah, Jack. Yeah. I think we could all go back and roll back and download that 1.7, but 1.7 was the most stable. And Chris says framing was changed direction so it works with gantry machines. What you talking about, Willis? My framing has never changed directions, and I've got 2.0.05, and I still frame in the same. My framing never changed, and the Rolly is a gantry, and nothing on mine changed. So I'm not. And he says, "Oops, it was changed for Galvos," but so maybe if he was using Galvo and now his is framing in a different direction, that's what's changed. Okay. I've upgraded to 2.0 and have not 0.4, 0.5, but I need to, right? When I changed to 2.0, I did. At this point, Kilroy, I don't think you have anything to lose because every single update I've seen since 2.0 has had some bug, but they've addressed and or fixed other bugs. So unless you're going to do like what Jack's done, Jack stayed with 1.7. Unless you're going to roll back to 1.7, I would continue to update because they're eventually going to get the bugs worked out of it. Because how great has Lightburn been up until now? And 98% of the problems that Lightburn is experiencing right now is because of Windows problems, the integration and the handshaking that needs to take place with Windows and different display resolutions and all that kind of stuff. It's more of a Windows, and it's not a Windows problem, but it's an integration problem with current Windows. And Windows has been updating like crazy here the last few weeks. So with Windows updating and then Lightburn trying to keep everything, they'll get there. Just be patient. Be patient. All right. So news about the campers and the RVs. So most of you, if you've been a regular weeklies, I flooded my RV. I flooded the RV and I had 2 inches of standing water in it, and the floors are like sponges now because it's particle board and it's totaled. There's no saving that. In order to fix it, the floors are underneath the walls. To do it right, the camper has to come off, replace the floor, and then put the camper back on. Nobody's going to pay to do all that. So they just total lost my RV. It's done. But because it is my house, I had 100% coverage, replacement coverage on my RV. So Progressive, with nearly no hesitation whatsoever, showed up, looked, seen, it's clearly evident what happened. No questions asked. Okay, done. Stroke the check. Here you go. So I was in search of trying to find a new home. And and it's funny when you say this, I've been to Helen, Georgia. And if you say, I've been to Helen, Georgia, I've been to Helen, Georgia, looking for a new place and new rigs, and been down to upstate South Carolina. I've been a bunch. One of the nicest ones I found is only 2 miles down the street. But I just didn't feel right. I wasn't comfortable with doing anything. I was not. I don't know how it sounds to some of you, but it didn't feel right with my spirit to do anything. And so that's why I said the other day, I've decided to just be still. I said, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to wait. Something doesn't feel right. I need to just be still, do nothing, and wait. And the property that I have here, that I have this shop in, it is a house that was built in 1900 or 1901. There's some discrepancy on which year it was built. Might have been built during the fall or winter or something. But regardless, it's well over 100 years old. And it was used as a church for 30 plus years. So I've had to do a makeshift, turned one of the Sunday school rooms into a bedroom. For those who are not patrons, you're not aware, I have become the full-time caregiver for my father, who is suffering with early onset dementia, and some days are better than others. But he didn't want he was living in a different RV by himself out on a piece of property that he owned that's not set up for 2 RVs. It's not room for both of us. So I ended up having to bring him from there, set up a bedroom for him. I had to put in a whole bathroom, get everything set up, make this a living habitat that he could live in, while I lived in the RV behind the property, so I can, be here if he needed me, when he needed me. A lot of time and a lot of money getting this place livable for him. And I couldn't have done it without my patrons and their support. So thank you, and God bless each of you for all of your support. But this property is a commercial piece of property sitting in one of the busiest intersections in the county. I am 3 blocks away from the exact center of the county, and this place is a nightmare. It's a nightmare place to be. And it's on the corner lot of the property that I used to have my business on. And when I sold it, I kept this corner just so I had a landing place if I needed somewhere to go. And then plus 2, I was like, oh, someday he's going to want that corner and he'll pay a premium price for it. Well, he's never wanted to do it. He's never wanted to buy it, never wanted to buy it. He's always turned it down. He came to me last week and said he's ready to buy, and he's willing to pay me a fair price for it. And that's why my spirit told me 2 weeks ago, don't buy a camper. That's why I say, pay attention, listen, don't make any rash decisions, pray about your decisions, and listen. I just didn't feel right about. I had the money, I had the camper 2 miles down the street. That would have been a nice camper. I showed y'all some pictures in one of the live streams, and some of you joked and kidded about it being nicer than the homes you live in. And it was a really nice RV, but just didn't feel right. So now I've entered into an agreement with the man to purchase this property. And with the sale of this property and the insurance settlement from my other RV, and being able to sell off a couple of dad's assets, I'm now able to pursue buying that property, my mountaintop property, relocating. I can't go to Tennessee. I want to go to Tennessee, but I can't go to Tennessee without a whole lot of headaches revolving around my dad's health care. So now I'm looking at going into the mountains of North Carolina, looking for a hilltop that I can be on, clear me off a little bit of area that I can see for 70 or 80 miles. But you can't see me from the roads, but you can see me with some binoculars from 80 miles away. And that's what I've been doing for the last 4 or 5 days, is hunting land. So Ed says he finally got the depth. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. And no, I'm not doing anything. The RV's totaled. I kept the RV because initially I thought that I was going to use it to salvage the RV that Dad had been living in and has just been ruined from time and abuse. And I was going to use use two to salvage and make one good one. But now I don't have the physical ability to do it. I no longer can do the things that hard manual labor. I can only walk. Oh, wrong button. I can only walk 40 or 50 yards at a time without being winded, and I have to sit down. So to do that whole remodel, while I could do it, it's not realistic, and I couldn't do it in a timely manner. So those are just going to be sold off as is to somebody who can do that, and I'm not going to have to worry with it. So yeah, it's it's what I've been looking for, what I've been wanting to do. Not necessarily the destination I want to be in, but I've got plans. I got plans that will help me, sustain this, because no matter where I'm at, whether I'm stuck right here in the armpit of North Carolina in the hell that this county is, this is a terrible, terrible place to be. And my apologies to Jack and to Ed if you're still here and you disagree with what my feelings are about Gastonia and Gaston County, because those two guys are here. They're right there. And Bill Coleman, he's also a Gaston County redneck. There's a few Gaston County rednecks that watch and support the channel. So if you don't agree with me that this is one of the most terrible places to be, then I apologize. But Jack says I second that. So Jack agrees. Ed says I'll miss you being close, but congrats. And Ed, it's funny. One of the things that I'm looking for, we've got about a 45-minute drive from our current location to West Penn Hardwoods. So I've been looking for mountain property that's no more than about 45 minutes to West Penn Hardwoods, because out of all the things that I'm willing to give up, I don't want to give up the convenience of being able to get to West Penn to get my hardwoods. I know that there are a few. Dwayne, I don't know if Dwayne's in the shop or in the stream tonight. Dwayne drives from West Virginia to West Penn Hardwoods. I don't want to make that kind of drive. So, and Ed agrees too. So Jack and Ed both agree that this is not a good place to be. So if you can get out, get out. Drove from Atlanta to Durham last weekend for work. I think I went. Yes, you did. Yep. If you went up 85 from Atlanta to Durham, you went right through this armpit. And I say that this area is the armpit of North Carolina because it's if you look at the state, it's got that. If you were to think about that little hump in the bottom, it's, that's the armpit of the state, and that's where I'm at. It's terrible, and it lives up to being the armpit of an area. And Jack said he wanted to go to West Penn today, but he had to fix the washing machine instead. Well, I am. This is what I'm looking at now. I had never seen these before. I had heard, after the hurricanes come through Western North Carolina, uh, out towards Chimney Rock and the southwestern part of the state, and wiped out entire communities and neighborhoods and towns with the flooding. Whenever they were looking at trying to get some quick housing in there, there was talk about the Amish built uh, tiny homes being brought into the area and set up for immediate housing. I didn't look at them, didn't look into them, I'd never seen them before. But these homes, they're built on steel frames like a mobile home, but they are stick built from and wood. They're not metal, trailers from the 70s. And they're referred to as park models, but you can go down to your RV dealer and buy a park model RV that you can tow with your car or your truck. And those park model RVs that you can tow, they look like a 1970s camper or mobile home. And I don't like that look. But these park models uh, are extraordinary. And I'm going, let me pull this one up here. What's today? Saturday. I'll be going Monday or Tuesday. I'll be driving to Franklin, North Carolina, which is almost as far west as you can go in the state, to check these out and look at these. And here is, let's see if I can get this full screen. Nope. Nope, won't let me blow it up any. But let me go back to the beginning. Like I said, these are log cabins. These are log cabins that are built on a steel frame that you could put a foundation under and build them in. And they're not made to be towed on a weekend basis. They're made to be towed and set up and be permanently set up. And this one here is a turnkey ready to move in. He's got it on a piece of property, selling you the property and the mobile or the park model, everything. And it's fully equipped. All of your appliances, everything's ready to go. You're ready to it's a turnkey job ready to move in. And it's 275, and that's including the land. But I don't want to be living in one of his parks that he's setting up. He's got nice villages set up. That's too tight of a community. But then he's got places like this where it's only going to have 7 or 8 homes on it. On that entire place, you only have like 7 or 8 neighbors. But if we look at not the turnkey price, here you go. You can buy these things ready for $69,900, set for under 70. Here's 75,000. You can buy these ready to move in. You have to pay the transportation, get them set up on your property and all. But I'm looking at potentially doing one of those for my dad and then one of those for me. So he still has his independence and has his own place to live. And I can set up, adjacent near him, and, he'll still keep some sense of independence. So it's going to be, an interesting couple of weeks. The fellow who's agreed to buy this is, and man, I'm willing to give you 6 or 8 months to find something and then get out. So it's been a good decision not to rush and buy one of those RVs. All right. Any other questions regarding lasers or? Right now, there's some pretty decent prices to be had up there because that's where all the flooding took place. Bill, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but that's where, and I'm pretty sure they tore down that the resort that they filmed the Dirty Dancing. I'm pretty sure they tore it down. My mom still lived in the county, and we stayed at the Lake Lorraine the last time we were there. Yeah, I don't know if it's still there. I think it's gone. Hi. Oh, okay. Oh, Steve. You're telling Santa to say hi. Now, I wouldn't want to be in Oregon, but I think I would like to be in Montana. But Dad does not want to go. He ain't even real crazy about moving. Period. But it is what it is. But taking him out of state is not a battle that I'm going to try and accomplish. All right, let's see here. That is a price for a 500 square foot trailer. It's not really a trailer. It's a manufactured house built on a steel frame, but it's not designed to be moved. It's not a trailer because it doesn't have lights on it. It doesn't have marker lights or brake lights or any of that kind of stuff like a mobile home has, or a park RV. A true park RV, or when I think of a park model, it has tail lights and backup cameras and all that stuff. These are not. These are manufactured homes, and they're stick built wood frame. They're not metal trailers. They are on a steel frame, but not a trailer frame. And the 500 square foot trailer, the park model RVs, the real park model RVs that you can pull behind with like my rig, man, those things are $100,000. And here you're buying these for practically half of that. So it's a heck of a deal. Heck of a deal. And Santa says, no, it's still there. And James said it's burnt down. I've heard that it's gone. So is the plan to have a workshop in yours or build a separate workshop? Well, Chris, that is yet to be determined because it depends on how things are going to shake out. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find a piece of property that I can put these on. I'm going to look to Monday at these because looking at them online, they look impressive. But once I go and kick the tires on them, so to say, it may not be anything I'm interested in. I think I'm going to be, but it may be something I'm going to be like, nah, those just aren't practical either. And I may just have to bite the bullet and look for an existing house that has a detached garage or workshop that I can set up in. So these, like I said, this is not something that's set in stone, something I'm looking for. If I can find property cheap enough that I can get these set up on cheap enough, then I might go that route. And if not, then I'll be buying a house. And if I can't find what I need, then I've always got the option of, even if I have to just buy a house that doesn't have a detached garage or anything, The RV that's flooded has an 18-foot garage in it. It has an 18-foot, honest to God, garage, and it was not flooded. And it has a separate entrance into it. So I could park that on a piece of property and set up the entire shop in the garage of that RV. That's always a possibility. And it may be a temporary solution until I get something resolved. Got to find the property. Find the property that speaks to me that I can afford. That's going to dictate which way I go with either this type of housing, or do I find the property that already has a house and the necessary shop? Don't know. And you ain't just whistling Dixie. Kevin says he's been through Gastonia several times and traffic gets horrible. It's not as chaotic as driving through Atlanta because there's only 2 or possibly 3 lanes of traffic. But it is, most of the time, it's nonstop or bumper to bumper, sometimes at a crawl, 40 mile an hour, if that, on the interstate. And sometimes it's shut down. If it rains, there's an accident at exit 19. Count on it. If it rains, there's an accident there and they shut it down. There's a problem with the way that the water goes across the interstate. It doesn't drain properly and people go through there too fast, not knowing that there's a problem there. They hydroplane and slam into other cars and or the median. So in a rain, exit 19, there's a wreck and it shuts the interstate down. Let's see here. Yeah. And Santa says half a chimney. The old shops and tourist traps were just washed away, completely gone. The river, the creek, completely relocated. Where it used to be and where it is now, it's off by as much as 40 or maybe even up to 100 yards in some places. It moved from where it was at into the middle of the road, completely washing the road away, and every shop that was there is all gone. I haven't been up there since they've been remodeling and rebuilding, but I've been staying away just because I don't have any business being up there. I'm afraid, Carl, and don't take this as an insult because it's not an insult. People get so insulted when I use this, but I do believe your comment is coming from a standpoint of being ignorant on the subject. If you were to compare this, and being ignorant about something is not a bad thing. I'm ignorant about a lot of things. But when it comes to park models and RVs versus these manufactured homes, and comparing the price of a manufactured home to an RV that's designed to be towed up and down the highway, it's a really, really cheap price. And I don't know how it would compare to, and because this is me coming from a place of ignorance, I don't know what the cost would be to build from scratch a square, per square foot for the same type of house. But then even if you could build slightly cheaper per square foot, what you're paying for is for the convenience. For me to find a piece of property and then get a contractor out there who could come in, do the work, do the site prep and everything else, and then get the stick built home from start to finish, end of the drive, done, finished, versus going out here, going to this dealer and saying, done, buying a couple pieces and having it traveled out there and picked up and set in place and done. You're paying for that convenience. So it's a matter of what's important to you. And as long as the quality's there, even if it is a little bit higher than stick built price, you're paying for the convenience and for that instant gratification So I don't know. Maybe it is a ridiculous price looking at a stick built piece versus manufactured. But a lot of times, these manufactured homes, like my uncle, he lives in a 2-story manufactured home and it's built with 2x6 walls. It's not built with 2x4 walls, it's 2x6s. It is a super heavy duty, well engineered piece of engineering. The whole house, it was brought out in I think 4 pieces. 4 pieces brought it out and then put them all together on site. Uh so manufactured housing has come a long way, and these are Amish built. These are not something that's just, cheap, fly together, fly by night, pop up. These are Amish built homes, and the Amish don't do anything halfway. They do really good quality work. Um, and yes, photos can give you a very false impression of actual size and depth. But if you think about right now, my dad is living in one bedroom that's probably at best 12 by 12, and he spends 98% of his time in there. Then he'll spend a little bit of time in the kitchen, a little bit of time in the bathroom, taking care of the 3 S's. And then he's back to the recliner or back to the bed. And so you're not occupying a whole lot of space. You don't need no one needs a 3,000 square foot home. No one needs a 5,000 square foot home. Uh, it's what you want, not what you need. If you think about any one of you still watching, if you actually sat down and started making a document of notations of what square footage you are occupying in your house in a week's time, 90% of it, you're probably only occupying about 30 square feet of your home. Really, you don't use a whole lot of your space. Um, Yeah, I don't want anything to do with HOAs. I'm looking for undeveloped and unrestricted with no HOAs. You can buy a fifth wheel with 4 slide outs for 90, and you don't have to pay the property tax like you have on a tiny home. Um, I don't pay property tax on any of my RVs because I've got them all registered in Montana. Um, and the places that I'm looking at moving into, property tax is practically nil anyway. That's not to be said for this county. This county is highway robbery. That's another reason I'm getting out of here. Um, and you'll definitely get more room with the fifth wheel. But with the way these floor plans are laid out, and you're not wrong about that, Carl, you get a whole lot more room with a fifth wheel. That's why I've had a fifth wheel for the last 6 years. But these things are as wide as you can get them. I think they're 13.8. They're right at 14 feet wide. A fifth wheel is 10 foot at a wide body RV. A wide body RV is 10 foot. And then if you've got 2 opposing slides, that's another 2.5 to 3 feet. So you can have up to 16 feet when you have opposing slides. I've got 2 opposing slides in my living area now, and I have never set or occupied either one of those slide areas. Never. I sit in the recliner that's directly in front of the TV, which is in the center of the RV. So the slides are totally irrelevant, other than the perception of when I'm sitting in there of being in a larger environment, which doesn't bother me. I could take it or leave it. If I had a family traveling with me, had kids with me, and needed the extra room, whole nother ball game. But this is for me, one person, and a dog, and one for my dad. One person. That's all. You don't need all that. And the way they're set up, you've got a living area that's going to be 14 feet wide, master bedroom, and a bath. You get plenty of room for one person. I don't know that I would want to be in that small of a unit as a couple. I definitely wouldn't want to occupy one of those with me and him both. That's why I would need two of them. But that statement, you are 100% correct, Carl. Anybody who's thinking about getting a camper or an RV, the fifth wheel is the way to go. I have not been through Christmastown, USA in probably 20 years. Just it's not something that appeals to me. I don't care for the traffic, and just ain't gonna do it. Ain't gonna do it. You can actually park now and walk through. Uh, they've got different traffic signals and stuff set up to help, and crossing guards and all that to help people get across. But I'm not that into Christmas lights to go through that headache. Uh, let's see here. Jack says, I got a video about exit 19. I mentioned a minute ago that in Gastonia, exit 19, if it rains, there's a wreck. And he goes on to say, I hydroplaned and hit the wall doing about 50. So he's not even doing the speed limit, and he hit the wall because that area, that it's a curve, and the way that the DOT set that road up, it's horrible. They know it's bad. It's been going on for decades, and no one's done anything about it. But he's got a video about it. It's terrible. And want to see here. Don't want to miss anything before we wrap it up here. Some of y'all's conversations, I'm not. I've looked at them, and they have RV plumbing and RV showers and toilets in them. And some of them may. And I wonder, Carl, the ones you were looking at, do you know where they built by the Amish? Were they built by the Amish? Because there's a lot of manufacturers out there who are taking and making these tiny homes now. And I'm sure that a lot of them can be really, really crap built. But I don't expect that to be the case with the Amish here. And I'm just curious, since you mentioned that, I'm going to pull up an image because you can tell. Oh, go back. Yeah. And here you go. I'll go back here to this image and show you this. You can see this is a full ceramic toilet with the handle up here. This is not an RV toilet. This is not RV plumbing. So, there are different qualities, I'm sure, that are out there. And I would not want one of these with full RV plumbing. I wouldn't want that at all. But these look like they're definitely a step above. Definitely a step above. But that's why I'm driving to Franklin. It's 3.5 hours. I'm going to be driving 3.5 hours Monday to go spend an hour. Hopefully they're worth looking at, and I can spend an hour or an hour and a half just looking at all the different models. If I get there and see that they are terrible, and I've got to be there for less than 5 minutes because they're as horrible as what you anticipate they might be, then I'm back in my truck and driving back another 3.5 hours, only to have the knowledge that that's not the road I'm going down. But these don't appear to be that way because these, and because if just by looking at the fact that that's got the tank on the back and it's got the handle up there, that's a full porcelain toilet. That's not an RV toilet. Let's see here. Some people need 500 square feet just for their clothes. No, Ed. Some women need 500 square feet for their closets. I I don't know many men, especially once you start getting to our age, man. I have got I have got a 6 foot closet right now, probably an 8 foot closet, and I only utilize 4 foot of it any time out of the year. During the spring and summer, I'll use this 4 feet. During the fall and winter, I've got my this 4 feet, and then I've got one, two, 4 drawers, 4 drawers that I use for my entire wardrobe. Men don't need a whole lot of space, especially like I said, the older we get, the happier we are with just, you know, we don't have to be all done up. Uh, and with the exception of my theater, I basically live in 20 to 25 square meters, square. Yeah. You don't use a lot of the space that we own. Um, do, 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 do. And he says, I want 12 to 1,500 square feet house with a 30 by 60 foot workshop. Yeah. And I'm telling you, you could get by with half of that square footage. But when it comes to the workshop, wholeheartedly agree. I'd want at least a 2 car garage, minimum a 2 car garage. And yeah, like Ed says, that's what I'm thinking right there. That's exactly what I'm thinking. But we'll see. We'll see what the good Lord has in mind for me, what He presents and makes available for me. Oh yeah, and this is another thing. Santa says, when I drove to Charlotte for work, there was also an exit in the morning that sun right dead in your eyes. It also depends on the time of year. Sometimes at certain times of the year, it's god awful. It's just blinding. It's right in the, you're trying to get, sun's coming up because you got to get to Charlotte before 8 o'clock. And the sun, I've been there with you, We used to have a tire store in Charlotte, and that morning drive, it was absolutely blinding, horrible. Uh, Jer says, take a camera and record it. It could be a good video. What they're like for other people. What site is that? This is tinylife.com. Tinylife.com. And this particular dealer is located in Franklin, North Carolina. But these, like I said, Amish built, they got more inventory coming in. So they're built, they're not built there. This is just a dealership. And I think these popped up. No, I don't think these dealers popped up after the floods. Let's see here. Purchased an RV park unit, has regular plumbing, wood siding, double hung windows designed by Bass Pro 20 years ago and has not depreciated at all since then. Forced air. Yeah. Some of these, the manufactured homes have the early days of, what do they call them? They call them manufactured homes, but they were just glorified trailers, glorified mobile homes, glorified double wides in some cases, and they gave manufactured housing a really bad name because there is a difference between a modular home. There we go. That's what I was thinking of. A modular home and a manufactured home are two different animals, two completely different animals, and they are quality wise, they can be a night and day difference. All right, brother. Yeah, go be careful. Put some gloves on. I bet that would work well with it. You know what? And I thought about that, Jay. I thought about that a lot because what I think Jay's referring to in his comment is that he thinks this would work great with the um, craft closet MDF, pre-finished MDF. And I think he's right. A solid piece of pre-finished MDF because it's not going to have the wood grain. It's not going to have the places for it to seep into and hide. It's already got a finish on it. You might still even put a light lacquer finish on it prior to engraving. May not be necessary. But do the engraving and do this, and that could give you some really, really, I think, excellent results. I'd already thought about that. I have not had time to experiment with it, and I didn't want to speculate without having tried it. But I do believe it would be nice. I believe it would turn out really good. Good night, Ed. Well, Sharon, I'm surprised we're still here. We've had about we were up to about 80 viewers. We're down to 60 now. We've gotten some people signing off and going home. And Ed, or not Ed, Carl says that tiny home would cost, now get this, about $650 a square foot. That's high. Yeah, I don't know how to respond to that. I get it. You don't think that it's a good investment, but I don't see. I honestly don't think that you would be able to. I don't know if you could do the same thing on site. Don't know. Don't know. And Sharon, Terry saying, "Hey, you missed a great one. Well worth rewatching." We did. I did. I showed how we got off on a tangent because of the new avenue that I'm on right now for my housing situation, and it got into a whole different conversation. But I demonstrated how I turned this out using the gold gilding wax, and this is solid walnut, and then engraved it with the laser and used this gilding wax. And I did a demonstration on how to use that. This is an unprotected piece or a non-prep piece of Purple Heart, I think it was. And this side, I prepped it and did got different results. Definitely worth rewatching because there's a lot of good information here. And I also talked about what's going on with the website. The website should be up and running within the next 24 to 48, well, probably 48 to 96 hours. I should have the website up and running 100%. Right now it's up, but I'm only testing it against bots. I don't encourage you to try and sign up for it yet. And Kathy says, "Oh, I forgot to do this. She's learned 4 new things." Awesome. Chris says, "Value versus cost are 2 separate variables." And yeah, it's a matter of, if I've got, in this situation, I've got 6 to 8 months to get out of here. And in 6 months, I could not build and have completed and ready to move in 2 separate units like that I can move us out of and into without having some kind of problems. Because when you're doing stick built construction, weather is always an issue. Plus, I'm talking about being in a remote location. The expense of building in a remote location goes up because you're not able to go down to your local neighborhood Lowe's and pick up the pieces you need. Everything's got to be trucked in and brought in. That's going to increase the cost of the per square foot. here with a manufactured house, not a modular house, but a manufactured home, a whole lot better quality than what most people are used to. Um, yeah, Sharon, I am beside myself with what this turned out, and the finish I've got on this. And I'm not done with the finish yet, but you look at the gloss and that I've still got a couple more applications of the lacquer to put on there, but that turned out super super nice. And this is going on an urn that's going to be presented to the family on Monday. So I've got a couple of days to get this finished. I'll deliver this to the funeral home before I leave town Monday. Yeah, and that's the other thing to think about is, if I'm looking at undeveloped, unrestricted property, then you've got the expense of running the electric. Gas is not going to be an option most of the time when you're in remote locations like that. You've got these 400 or 500 gallon barrel not tanks that you've got out there that you have filled every 3-4 months or whatever. And the septic system you're going to have to put in because you're not going to have sewer. You got to install a septic system. And what I will do, uh, is, regardless what, if I end up getting an undeveloped, unrestricted lot and put a minimum of 2 of these on there, when I put the septic system in, I will put a septic system in that's good for at least a 3 or 4 bedroom house. So that way, a year from now, 10 years from now, whatever, if I need to upgrade, move, or sell or change or whatever, that value of that property will be increased because it has a septic system on site that is willing to accommodate, a 3 or 4 bedroom house, not just those. So, but yeah, those are things that you have to, and then plus two, if I'm the lots that I'm considering, I'm looking at some of them that have got a 3,000 grade from road up to potentially 3,000 feet to 4,000 feet above the road front. So to get from the road, and I want to put the house way up here, that's a lot of grading and prep. Just the driveway alone could cost anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 just to put a driveway in there. So all those things are things to be considered and thought about. And no, I do not sand between every coat, Roger. This, I applied the first coat before I did any of the gold. I applied the first coat, then I did a light sanding of the first coat, and then I applied a second coat, and it was pretty slick. And then I did the engraving. Then I did the wax, cleaned all that up, got it filled where it needed to be. Then started applying additional coats of lacquer, and probably after maybe every third coat, I would give just a light, sand to make sure I've got any little hairs or pricklies knocked down and all nice and smooth. 3 coats again. And then once I got it, it was probably at least 6 or 8 coats. Then, because of what Chris was mentioning, the dimples, due to not having the gold fully flush, the fact that the gold is recessed a little below the surface of the wood, there is some dimpling in the surface of that material. It's not huge, but there's some. There you go. If you can get the lighting, just you see there in the glare and the light of the hands, there's a little bit of dimpling going on there. It was even greater than that. But after about the 6th or 7th coat, I then sanded it to where it was smooth. And then I began to apply another 6 coats, and I've still got some dimpling going on. But that's how I got that super, super wet, really deep, almost acrylic, surface on there. 320 grit, 320. 320 is all I used. And like I said, and when I did just to knock down, I mean, I didn't do any block sanding. I just took the 320, just and that was it. And then applied the next few coats. I did block sand it whenever I tried to get all the dimples out. And I got, 98% of them out, but there's still just a little there. And I'm satisfied with the way it looks. But 320 was as aggressive as I got. All right. Boys and girls, this has been a long one, and we've talked about more stuff than I was planning on talking about. But thank you all for being here. This is a really neat alternative to offering just a plain engraving. And I am going to play with this on some of the pre-finished MDF and see what that looks like, and what kind of result it gets. And Jer says, I think you would have good luck with UV resin. It would be nice and thick coat and dry in 2 minutes using the UV. And yeah, and I haven't done any UV or any resin work. And that's what I've got this looking like. But it's the lacquer finish instead of the resin. I just haven't worked with it. But I believe you're absolutely correct in your statement. And I didn't want to answer that for NEPA, but yeah, NEPA, and I think she did the NEEPA just so people knew to say NEPA and not NIPA. NEPA. All right. Well, good night, everybody. And for those who are having ailments, I will say a prayer for the Hobo Nation. For those who were not here when we first signed on, Steve had an accident this week, fell down some stairs and broke several bones. He's laid up right now. Craig is going through some more surgery where he's done broke some titanium in his back from a previous surgery. I mean, how much how much of a He-Man you got to be breaking titanium? I told him he needed to chill a little bit. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate the Hobo Nation more than I can tell you. All of the patrons, be on the lookout for an email coming this week with messages regarding the new website and what we need to do to get you set back up and get everything restored to what it was before there. And Steve's still here. Wow, Steve. I'm surprised that you hadn't gotten taken out by some of the pain meds. So I'm glad you're still up and still with us. So we got several people here that are praying, folks, and they're going to say a prayer for you too. So hope you get to feeling better, and hope the pain is not too much for you to deal with. And I hope the doctors take really good care of you. I don't trust them. You shouldn't either. Ask questions if you have concerns about what's going on. Don't trust them that they're doing that they always have everything in your best interest. I think they always have ulterior motives. All right. So with that, y'all have a good night, and we'll see you in a video hopefully next week, and not just a live stream. But it depends on, I've got so much going on. See what happens. You guys have a good rest of the week, and we'll see you next week.